Good morning. Today is Tuesday, December 10th, 2024. I am Holly Lynn Walcott, the Los Angeles City Clerk. It is my pleasure to preside over this meeting until the council election is held for the next president. I also want to welcome all new members. Today is their first meeting, and I'm really excited to have you all here. Councilmember Price.
Thank you, Madam President. City Attorney has asked me to recuse myself from items 29, 30, and 31 because I am a landlord. Additionally, I'm recusing myself from item 68 because my wife's employer has worked on the project. And I'd like to move item 26 back to the Economic Development and Justice Committee.
And if we could get a second for the action to send item 26 back to committee.
Second? Someone?
Is there a second? Seeing none.
Councilmember Blumenfield. And that's the Economic, Community Development, and Jobs Committee.
Mr. Clerk, are there any other available items to vote on before we move to public comment?
Not at this moment.
Mr. Clerk, please open the roll on these items, close the roll. Oh, wait, sorry. Wrong line in the script. We are now moving to public comment. Please note today's meeting includes a call-in option for public comment.
Good morning. My name is Tess Taylor. I'd like to speak on item 35 and on general public comment. I'm here on behalf of the Greater Toluca Lake Neighborhood Council. I'm its president and presenting a community impact statement. How much time do I have, please? 5 minutes.
The chair said you have 5 minutes, then impact statement.
Thank you.
Mr. Herman, you have been warned already. You are here at almost every single meeting. You know to please hold your applause until the end. I cannot hear what the speaker is saying or what the chair is saying. So this will be your second and final warning. Do not disrupt this meeting. I'm sorry, Speaker. So you have 5 minutes for the community impact statement. And then with regards to your requested personal items, item 35 is not open for public comment, but you'll have 1 minute for general. We're going to separate those out. So, Clerk, if you could please set the clock for 5 minutes for the community impact statement. Go ahead.
Thank you. Tess Taylor here, president of the Greater Toluca Lake Neighborhood Council, and presenting today on its behalf. This is related to the third draft proposal of the housing element of the general plan and the citywide housing incentive program ordinance, the CHIP ordinance. The amendments that were just presented this morning have not been reviewed or considered by many people here who are concerned, which includes me and my entire community. We would like to make our support clear of the exclusion of R1 single-family zones from multifamily housing development. The Greater Toluca Lake Neighborhood Council specifically opposes Exhibit D, quote-unquote, options, which would permit such incompatible zoning. The third draft identifies sufficient zoning capacity to fulfill the regional housing needs allocation state mandate without resorting to such options. We wholeheartedly reject any of the amendments that were put forward today until they can be reviewed and commented upon. This is GTLNC's only endorsement within the current third draft proposal approved by the City Planning Commission on Thursday, September 26, 2024. 18 days of advance notice is a conspicuously inadequate amount of time to read, let alone analyze and consider the 2,050 pages of materials in the proposal, which are not written in plain language, even by people with specific expertise in land use and city planning, and its permanent, irreversible, and far too often negative implications and consequences, and much less so by unpaid neighborhood council volunteers, none of whom have unlimited time to commit to such tasks, and no qualified staff support whatsoever for such purposes. So once again, the Greater Toluca Lake Neighborhood Council supports the exclusion of R1 single-family zones from the multifamily housing development. We thank you for your consideration, and we hope that you will give greater consideration to the residents and voters of the city of Los Angeles, because sometimes it's not clear whose interests are being represented by council members on this council. Thank you very much. Tess Taylor, Greater Toluca Lake Neighborhood Council.
Good morning, Council. My name is Alfonso Directo Jr. I'm the Advocacy Director with ACT LA. I'm commenting here in support of 35 CHIP option number 1 and item 40. I'm really excited that this day has come for ULA and the ULA guidelines to be passed. ACT LA is leading a campaign for social housing, and that's one of the really wonderful guidelines that are in 31 today. We're excited to see social housing units in design soon to build permanently affordable, resident-run housing in Los Angeles. We're also here in support of CHIP option 1. We need to expand single-family zones to desegregate the city, comply with affirmatively furthering fair housing, and reduce the displacement burden in multifamily zoned areas that are already facing gentrification and displacement pressures. Thank you so much.
My name is Maria Briones. I'm a member of ACE, and I'm a longtime Antillano. I would like to say that we support the Resident Protections Ordinance to prevent permanent displacement due to home demolitions, which is an ongoing issue in Los Angeles. Evictions due to demolitions and tenant harassment are linked. When tenants are removed from their homes through harassment and unlawful evictions as a way to clear buildings before demolition, they are unaware of the right to reclaim replacement unit and will not be able to return and receive relocation payments. Also, we ask to pass the Resident Protections Ordinance just as it is to ensure that these protections are available for tenants. I also support the ULA expenditure guidelines to ensure that our city has the resources it needs to solve the housing crisis. Tenants should have a lawyer every time they go to court. That is why I supported tenants' right to counsel. And please vote yes on ULA so we can have those funds start moving to build affordable housing for everyone. We have the right to have a home, and we have a right to live in peace. Thank you.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Ok. Hoy vengo a pedirle al Consejo que tiene la oportunidad de dar un gran paso a la medida Yula.
I am right here to tell the council members that you have the opportunity to take a big step forward.
Apoyo firmemente que el Consejo apruebe las pautas finales del programa para Yula.
I am asking you guys to support to approval for EULA.
También el plan de gastos. Yula también ayudará a financiar el derecho a un abogado.
And also to the plan of spending money to finance the right to legal representation,
Educación
education,
y alcance para inquilinos
and affordability for tenants,
y la asistencia para alquiler.
and the assistance to be able to afford housing.
También apoyo la ordenanza para codificar el derecho a un abogado.
And I also support the ordinance to have legal representation, or the right to legal representation.
Quiero agradecer al concejal Raman por su liderazgo y agradecer a todos los concejales que han apoyado el avance de la ordenanza para el derecho de un abogado.
And I would like to thank Councilwoman Rahman and all the council members who have supported the ordinance to have the right to legal representation.
Les pido a los miembros del concejal votar sí y seguir adelante con el CHIP, las pautas y el programa de plan de gastos de la medida Yula y la ordenanza RTC hoy mismo.
And I ask all the council members to vote yes for the ordinance for CHIP, and for Eula and for Arsa.
Le doy la bienvenida a la concejal Jurado y al señor Adrian Nazarian en la comunidad de South Central. Gracias.
Yes, and also I would like to say welcome to the new council members, Adrian Nazarian and Jurado, and this city council member. Thank you.
Thanks,
Y
you.
en lo
1 minute. Go ahead.
personal ahorita estoy teniendo muchos problemas con el nuevo dueño de la casa. Desde la pandemia me ha metido 4 desalojos, han llegado a cerrarme el parqueadero, a cortarme el candado, a abrirme mi storage. Y yo
Yes, un segundo. Yes, I have been having problems with my landlord who has been giving me notices of eviction, and he has also put locks in my storage spaces, and he has also infringed my parking rights in the property.
Y quisiera pedir ayuda para la organización que están pidiendo para el apoyo de tener un abogado, ya que yo soy deshabilitada.
And I am also asking you guys to approve the ordinance to have legal representation, given that I am impaired.
Estoy yendo a la organización de SAGE, ahí me han ayudado bastante, pero ahorita que el dueño me sigue enviando cartas, la verdad ya no sé qué hacer, ni a quién más pedirle ayuda. Gracias.
I have gone to Sage, and they have been of a lot of help for me. However, the owner keeps sending me letters, and I no longer know what to do, and I am asking for help. Thank you.
Gracias.
You have 1 minute. Go ahead.
Hi. Okay. Hail all the mistletoe. I'm gonna get to know housing is a human right. Woo! Okay. First of all, general public comment, I would like to officially welcome Isabel Jurado as being the official one today. Love you. Okay, let's not continue business as usual. You're representing CD14. We expect and demand you hear the voices of your constituents, including the Skid Row community. Kevin Radio, where are you? It's your birthday today. Lastly, let's lift the curse of Count CD14 seat. Your predecessors, Jose Huizar, Kevin Alexander Leon, you know what I'm talking about. Welcome, Isabel.
Speaker,
We're
your
here.
time has expired. Next
Right
speaker.
on. Brother Pancake. Make some noise, y'all.
Speaker, please do not disrupt this meeting. So the gentleman who just spoke in the vest that says LA Can, this is your first and only formal warning.
Okay, I represent the Downtown Women's Action Coalition, and I'm here to speak on building community-led solutions. Skid Row has existed for so long as a community that has been both created and neglected by the city. It is time for the city to shift its approach and start supporting community-led models that build on existing resources and infrastructures. Community spaces like Blue Hollywood, the Sanctuary, Stephanie's White House, the Sidewalk Project, and LA Can have provided safety for women, and these models should be expanded and supported. The city should partner with these community organizations to build more inclusive, trauma-informed care systems and make sure that the services are available at all hours, particularly for women who are vulnerable outside the regular business hours. Skid Row is a community shaped by neglect and has also become a hub of resilience and resourcefulness. So let's create solutions that already exist and that are making a difference.
Good morning. I'm here with LA Can and DWAC, and I specifically would like to talk to Isabel and just welcome you to the council, and just to say that we are excited for a fresh new face is an understatement. The one thing that I want to bring up today is 4118 and how it directly affects the women population of Skid Row. The cognitive dissonance that happens when you see the services that are put in place to protect and serve are acting as tyrants and terrorizing the population in Skid Row is heartbreaking. And Isabel, I truly hope that we can work together and you can come down to LA Can. We can have conversations on how to just begin to take the correct steps to correct 4118 and move into a better position for the livelihood of our women of the community there in Skid Row. It's imperative. It truly is a dystopian reality with 4118.
My name is Lauren Harper, and I'm here to speak on general public comment.
Okay, so you have 1 minute. Go ahead.
I work at the Legal Aid Foundation of Los Angeles as the data manager of Stay Housed LA. I'm here to support the amendments to the Right to Counsel ordinance that were passed by the Housing and Homelessness Committee. Thank you to the council members who have worked with our coalition to make this ordinance as strong as possible for tenants. When tenants in eviction are represented by Stay Housed LA, over half of tenants remain in their own homes. An additional 40% receive a soft landing to prevent homelessness, including more time to move out, waived back rent through rental assistance, and paid relocation expenses. I also strongly support passing the permanent program guidelines for Measure ULA. Measure ULA ensures an ongoing funding source for Stay Housed LA as we grow to the full right to counsel codified in the ordinance, and continue providing legal representation, rental assistance, outreach, and education to thousands of tenants in LA each year. I urge all council members to vote yes on the Right to Counsel ordinance and the ULA program guidelines. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Edna, and I'm a tenant. I live in Council District 10, and I want to urge you all to support items 29, 30, 31, 35, 37 for item 35. Well, we need more housing, but we also need to ensure that tenants are protected. We also support the right to legal representation for tenants that are facing eviction. And we need to protect United to House LA. It's a measure that we want and that is going to keep and help a lot of tenants housed. So it's really important for the council members to vote yes on the CHIP Measure United to House LA Right to Counsel. I also want to welcome the new council members. I look forward to working together. And I also want to uplift the fact that rents are going to go up again in February. I urge the council president, Harris Dawson, to please meet with us. We need to pass a rent freeze because more tenants are going to get rent increases and people are going to end up in the streets, and we need to update the LARSO formula. Thank you.
Thank you. Hi, my name is Oren Hadar. I'm going to speak on item 35.
Okay, so you have 1 minute for general public comment. Go ahead.
Thank you. I've been a homeowner in Mid-City for 13 years. I'm asking you, please don't protect me at the expense of my kids. I don't need protecting. I'm fine. Homeowners will be fine. It's my kids that are the ones who won't be able to afford to live here because LA has the worst housing shortage of any big city in America. Middle-class families are leaving by the thousands because they're priced out. Please act like this is a crisis and stop protecting the most privileged people in our city at the expense of everyone else. CHIP, as written, is not enough. It doesn't allow new housing in enough places. But adding single-family zones could create enough missing middle housing to give our kids a chance. And if you're worried about homeowner backlash, please consider options 2 and 6, which would allow neighborhood-scale buildings on less than 5% of single-family lots. My block has houses on one side and small apartment buildings on the other side. It's lovely. Please have courage. Give middle-class kids a future in our city. Thank you.
I'm here to stand in strong support of Councilmember Rahman's amendment to the CHIP ordinance, adding in single-family parcels through options 2 and 6 prepared by city planning. Look, the UCLA report that came out recently shows something very clear. Even under the most optimistic scenario, CHIP as currently drafted doesn't come close to meeting our housing target. Do we want to be a city that does just a better job than some other anti-housing cities, or do we want to be a city that actually solves the problem? The only way to do it is to open up more parcels for development. And if we wall off every single family zone parcel in the city, we cannot solve our housing crisis. I ask you to make this small but meaningful step to open up 5% of those parcels. Thank you.
Please state your name and which items you'd like to speak on.
Maria Calban, general comment.
You have 1 minute.
I am the co-founder of United Neighbors, a large citywide coalition of community groups. We are here in support of Draft 3 of CHIP without Exhibit D or new amendments. For the past 2 years, our group has worked collaboratively with the Planning Department, council offices, and mayor's office to identify housing opportunities in each of our high-resource communities on all our commercial corridors that could create tomorrow's new neighborhoods while still protecting existing working and middle-class neighborhoods. These corridors can provide much-needed affordable housing due to the economy of scale. The mayor stated that communities should have skin in the game when addressing our housing needs. This draft still allows individual communities to address their specific needs through the community plan process. Personal animus towards single-family neighborhoods should not determine our housing policy. Thank you.
Big day in Los Angeles for housing. We're getting ULA guidelines passed, 2 years in the making, $475 million to remake the city of Los Angeles. Please vote yes on it. On the CHIP ordinance, we're asking the city council that mixed income incentive program and affordable housing incentive program to apply the single family zone parcels to high opportunity areas. We ask that you adopt option 1 from the city staff report along with the deepest affordability that is feasible. As it stands, excluding single family zone parcels maintains exclusionary zoning that goes back to when Black and brown folks couldn't even eat together with white folks in the city of Los Angeles in some places. So we want to break down that history of marginalization and segregation. A huge day for the city of Los Angeles to move forward and create a new path for our people and to be able to have a new day in Los Angeles. So please vote yes on option 1. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Andrea Vocos, resident of CD1, and I'm here with United Way of Greater Los Angeles in support of implementing ULA funds as soon as possible. Angelenos across the county recently voted overwhelmingly in favor of Measure A, which shows that people across both LA City and LA County are hungry for change and for meaningful steps towards housing stability and housing justice. So with that, the city must implement ULA funds and programs as fast as possible to prevent homelessness and make housing stability possible for more Angelenos. Let's use the $500 million that ULA has already raised to build affordable social housing, keep tenants housed, protect seniors and people with disabilities from falling into homelessness. I've personally had to worry about my mother's housing insecurity, and so I, on a personal level, know the importance of having options for seniors. Thank you.
Candido.
Good morning. You have 3 minutes for the items and 1 minute for general public comment. Please begin with the items.
Yes, and we start with number 1 with that bald-headed criminal in succession, Adrian Nazarian. Yes, you have a lien on number 1 put by the late Paul Martin Krikoria, known as the Goat Herder. You have a chance to cancel that lien. Are you going to throw people out of their homes? Well, of course, he's a corrupt politician. I'm going to give you the benefit of the doubt. Now we have other liens. We have Tracy Park committing the shame of the liens, though she has no shame. We have Padilla doing all of this agenda items. There must be 100 liens here for thousands and thousands of dollars. CD2 has a lien. CD4 has a lien. CD7 has a lien. CD19 has a lien, CD29 has a lien, and CD39 has a lien. Yes, that's right. See that, madam, their clerk? See how we do that? When the city attorney's away, Goat Puppet will play. Yes. So then we have the election. The election of the council president and the second president. Yes. Of course, we know that Django, the current president, is unqualified. He gets up out of his chair, he sweats, and he has too shiny of a bald head. So it's time for a new change. We need somebody strong, ruthless. Goat Puppet nominates Tim McOsker to become the new president of the LA City Council. Hey! Oh, Jesus Christ, that's a... Yes, that's right, Tim. You can walk out of here, Tim. but we will have the sergeant summon you and put that gavel in your goddamn hand to lead us away to hell. And then our second president, we need a real man and second in charge. The biggest balls on the council, Tracy Park. Yes, Tracy Park is an absolute ball crusher. She'd make an excellent president pro tem. Talking right now, for example, to the indicted council member, Curran DeMille Price, facing trial on 10 felony charges in February. Let's give him a hand. Beautiful. Yes. Yes, that's what happens here, people. All of these criminals. And of course, we have Isabel Gerardo and her items. But as you know, she's not Latina. Everybody thought she was. No, she's actually Filipino. So congratulations to all of you Latino people that voted out your own people out of office and dilute your own power in this council chambers. Yes, that's right. You know what we call that? Stupidity. Now we get to the general comment. As you know, today,
General public comment?
on viewers today, Candido will be denied his right to speak, and Armando Herman will be denied his right to speak because our city attorney's a piece of corrupt shit. And he sits there and collaborates to rig our sign-up system so these fine individuals can't come up here and do the things that they regularly do. And we're calling on you, Madam City Clerk, to investigate this and put a stop to it. See that lady up there? Unfortunately, she has to chair the meeting today. See how well behaved everybody is? Notice she doesn't give any illegal warnings. Notice she doesn't throw anybody out. That's because she knows what prison looks like and doesn't want to go to prison. So I figure Nazarian, maybe 3 years you'll get indicted, give or take. Gerardo, I can see about 1.5 years. So welcome to FBI surveillance, everybody.
Next speaker. Good morning. You have 3 minutes for the items and 1 minute for general public comment. Please begin with the items.
1. 也许很远，或是昨天，在这里或在对岸，长路辗转，离合悲欢，人聚又人散，放过对错，才知答案，活着的勇敢。没有神的光环，你我生而平凡，在心碎中认清遗憾，生命漫长也短暂，跳动心脏长出藤蔓，愿为险而战，跌入灰暗坠入深渊，沾满泥土的脸，没有神的光环，握紧手中的平凡。Item number 2. 有一天也许会走远，也许还能再相见，无论在人群在天边，让我再看清你的脸，任泪水铺满了双眼，虽无眼泪满面，不要神的光环，只要你的平凡。Item number 3. 山河无恙，烟火寻常，可是你如愿的眺望。孩子们啊，安睡梦乡，像你深爱的那样。而我将梦你所梦的团圆，愿你所愿的永远，走你所走的长路，这样的爱你啊。我也将建你未见的世界，写你未写的诗篇，天边的月，心中的念，你永在我身边。 你是遥遥的路，山野道里的灯。我是孩童啊，走在你的眼眸。你是明月清风，我是你照拂的梦。见与不见都一生与你相拥，而我将爱你所爱的人间，愿你所爱的永远，你的手我捧。
General public comment.
I'm here to talk about the equality health services in the city of LA. So far, at the same time, we are not talking about HIV outbreak in the Figueroa. So we are now talking about the diabetes, obesity outbreak in the Figueroa. So it seems like Figueroa is not part of the city of Los Angeles. It seems like people are having drugs on the street, people are doing prostitution on the street, people are doing $5 services inside of their car are not part of the Los Angeles jurisdiction. So if the Figueroa is no longer the jurisdiction under the city of LA, tell me who is the president in the Figueroa street? Who controls the $5 services? At the same time, when I'm asking for the $5 services, they charge me $300. So we are no longer care about this discrimination
Speaker,
of Figueroa
your time has
anymore.
expired.
Estoy pasando por una situación difícil. En este momento estoy pasando por un desalojo. Ya esta es una tercera demanda y vivo en el distrito 14 y yo quisiera que por favor hablar con la concejal Isabel Jurado, porque estoy bueno,
Hold on just a second. Go ahead, interpreter.
Yes, I am facing a very difficult time right now. I am looking at being unhoused. This is the third time that I have been in this situation. I live in District 14, and I wanted to ask if I could speak to Isabela Jurado.
Okay, go ahead.
Bueno, como dije, esta es mi tercera demanda en la corte y yo quisiera que si me podían ayudar, por favor.
As I said, this is the third time I am in court, and I was asking for help, please.
Yes.
Okay, sorry. Can you hold her time? I'm sorry.
Gracias.
No.
Thank you.
Mr. Herman, you have been warned twice now and are eligible for removal pursuant to Rule 7 and Rule 12 of the Council rules. Madam Chair, would you like to remove Mr. Herman?
Please remove Mr. Herman.
Okay. Mr. Herman, you have been excused from this meeting, and just so everybody knows who's here, Mr. Herman, I have advised you personally, individually, of ways to avoid getting removed from this meeting, which means keeping your voice down. If you have a concern, then please speak to the officers in a manner that does not disrupt this meeting.
Let the record show Mr. Herman continues to disrupt.
Thank you, everyone, for your patience.
Harriet Elliott. On item 1, I was the victim of
Speaker, which items you want? Item 1 and
one.
which?
I myself was a victim of a lien that was in error. How can you have a lien that is in error? This is what the some official did to me, and to get it removed took 10 years. Yeah. Moving on to general public comment.
Okay, so you have 1 minute. Go ahead.
The man named 3-Inch Shrimp made a pretty good case earlier that he is being discriminated against, charging $300 for something that outrageous. I'm moving on to mine. You might wonder why I am pursuing all these leads for people who helped me Incredibly, the ones that was the criterion for those who died around me. I've had teachers who died when they helped me. I'm serious. Someone's off their rocker. Someone in the CIA is a revenge porn person, can't get enough. Anyway, the back of this shirt says, directed energy weapons make smart bombs look like child's play. You know what smart bombs are? When they sat on top of the house and they saw people, bombs go to other people's house. If you think of that, it's beam weapons.
Thank you. We will now move to the phones. Thank you.
Well, let me start with Isabel. Thank you and congratulations. You are representing the Latino community based as a Filipino or
So,
Latina.
Speaker, you're welcome to speak to this
share-
during general, but I'm going to ask that you stick to the items for the first 2 minutes. Go ahead.
Okay. Again, when I spoke, you're doing the same thing. The city of LA is doing the same thing they did in 2009, sending the city inspectors out to look for revenue, to create a surplus for the city of LA. You have a shortfall in your budget, you send them out, cite people, and come back with money. It's no different. This is the reason I ran for office, the experience, and just because I've gone through this. Toluca Lake, you guys are right. You have no representation with District 6 right now. She'll be there during the next election cycle. But again, she's looking for revenue. Like everyone else has been told, look for money for us to keep the city afloat. So 1 and 2 are one and the same. You guys are looking for money from the city, people here that live in the city, citing them and coming back and collecting it. You're going to send all the city entities to do so, parking enforcement included, to create money for the city. Didn't happen no different in 2009 and 2010. But people just need to be aware of it. All I'm doing is pointing it out. I didn't create your past. I'm just showing that you're repeating it. You guys can stop this cycle by just being in front of it. You know Christmas is coming. You know when the mortgage is due. You know when your bills are due. This is no different. I told you in 2022, you guys are going to go through this.
General public
And
comment.
here you are going through it. General public comment. Again, Isabel, thank you. You know I was your supporter. We talked, or one of your staff members spoke with me. I'm Richard Serrano. Again, the Filipino and the Latino community, one and the same. A lot of Catholics, a lot of Christians, a lot of our historic background come from Spain. So you, to stand corrected, you do represent the Latino community, and you're going to represent them well in the district you deserve. Sorry, not trying to correct anyone, but we got better representation now than we've had for the last, what was it, 11 months, a year and a quarter. I'm glad to have some new blood in District 14. God bless LA, and shout out to Smoke and Scan.
Yeah, I would like to see whoever is nominated, we know who that's going to be for council president, to address what they're doing to give the benefit of the doubt in the First Amendment to the public and these onerous items that you gather at the beginning of the meetings rather than as the agenda items are called. If you want to find the one thing that Eric Garcetti got better than Harris Dawson and Herb Wesson and Paul Krikorian, is that when the item is being addressed and being spoken on and being voted on, the public was heard at that time. Well, Mr. Harris Dawson, why don't you take the lead? Why don't you take the lead, since you're going to be council president, and assure that when the item is heard, the public is heard. Otherwise, you're just giving the middle finger in the tradition of Herb Wesson and Paul Krikorian. Next item, DanielGus.substack.com. Item number 64, the plate reader. Can you please address the typo? Is that $11,400 or is it a typo of $114,000? It is a big deal. But what I would really like to hear about item number 64 is what are you doing to ensure that the information is not used or misused? Undoubtedly, these are the types of things that can stop terrorists, or like the assassin in New York City the other day. These are the types of things that help. But how can you assure the public that the information from these license plate readers are not going to violate the privacy rights of people who aren't involved in some sort of criminal activity? Daniel Gusta at Substack.com, item number 70, Park and Rec grants. You know, you wouldn't need Rec and Park grants if you stopped, quote unquote, reallocating, which is another nice way to say stealing, park budget funds. In the past 14 years, Paul Krikorian literally stole $1 billion from Rec and Parks. So if you didn't steal that money, why would you need Rec and Park grants? Item number 72, ethics. Well, it says it's already 3-to-1 male to female, and now I think you're appointing another male. That's an imbalance. Can you please, since you guys feast on identity politics, can you please address what you mean by male in the balance and what you mean by female? Ketanji Brown Jackson couldn't do that on the Supreme Court. And why do you have apparently a 4-to-1 imbalance on ethics? What are you saying about women if you have to have a
general public comment?
Maybe you should redefine male and female for us. Council members, you have a very big problem going on with the LAPD blocking access to public information and blocking access to public records. And I'm going to start soliciting tips from the public if the LAPD doesn't get its act together, because the city can sit in court for a few years if it wants to about these public records violations, because the LAPD is withholding information regarding public safety. It is, violating information that the public needs to know. And I just want to know what the hell is going on. If you want me to take it to the next level, I will. I don't want to. DanielGust.substack.com. It's free. I welcome tips as long as I know who you are and if these things are verifiable. DanielGust.substack.com.
Caller, this is your last opportunity.
Yes, my name is Candido Barris, and I'm a Smoking Scum Beer.
So, caller, you have 3 minutes for the items and 1 minute for general public comment. Please begin with the items.
Thank you there, Pumpkinhead. And shout out to the Smoke Can community. So the other day I was on Figueroa with this chick, and I paid her $5. Let me rush her back door and shoot up the club.
We go through this at every single meeting. This is not on the agenda, so I'm going to ask you politely one more time. Please stick to the agenda items, or I'm going to move you to general public comment.
Well, I can't speak about my item. You let that nigger hating Candido.
All right,
Harris
so welcome to general public comment. You have 1 minute,
things,
and during your 1 minute general public comment, you still need to connect this to something within the subject matter jurisdiction of the city. Go ahead. You have 1 minute.
Okay, I can do that. I'll keep it watertight like a frog's ass. That cool there, Pumpkinhead? All right, shout out to the Smoke Can community. And, 3-inch shrimp, his little issues having down there on Figueroa with the chicks. Figueroa has always been $5 a head. You got no head, you get in free. If they charge you more than $5 for...
So, Speaker, this is your opportunity to address the city council, not to address the other speakers in the room. So, again, this is your final warning. Go ahead.
Okay. Anyway, as I was saying, though, if you're paying more than, $5 a head, there's a problem there, because just move on to the next box, because they will take advantage of you. Hoes got to eat, too. So when you're down there, getting your little baby batter spread around there.
So you've been asked politely multiple times to stay on topic. You've refused to do so, so your time is forfeit.
It has been the tradition of the City Council to conduct the election of council president by voice vote, conducted in alphabetical order, and we are prepared to proceed in that fashion. As the council clerk calls your name, please state the name of the council member you are voting for to be president of the City Council, effective today, December 10th, 2024.
Councilmember Blumenfield.
Marquise Harris Dawson.
Councilmember Harris Dawson.
Oh, yeah.
Councilmember Harris Dawson.
Harris Dawson.
Councilmember Hernandez.
Harris Dawson.
Councilmember Hutt.
I enthusiastically vote for Harris Dawson.
Councilmember Hirado.
Harris Dawson.
Councilmember Lee.
Marquise Harris Dawson.
Councilmember McOsker.
Harris Dawson.
Councilmember Nazarian.
Marquise Harris Dawson.
Councilmember Padilla.
Mr. Marquise Harris Dawson.
Councilmember Price.
Council President, Marquise Harris Dawson.
Councilmember Rahman.
Marquise Harris Dawson.
Councilmember Soto Martinez.
The gentleman from the 8th District, Marquise Harris Dawson.
Councilmember Yaroslavsky.
Marquise Harris Dawson.
With a unanimous vote, Councilmember Harris Dawson has been elected to serve as the Council President.
Congratulations, Council President Marquise Harris Dawson. I now yield the chair and the microphone to you for my final time.
Thank you so much, everyone. And in my first vote to the clerk, it has been the tradition of this council to elect the council president pro tem by a vote, pro tempore, by a voice vote conducted in alphabetical order. We are prepared to proceed in that fashion, and I nominate Council President and the honorable member from the 3rd District, Bob Blumenfield, for Council President pro tem.
Councilmember Blumenfield.
Bob Blumenfield.
Councilmember Harris Dawson. Council President Harris Dawson.
Bob Blumenfield.
Councilmember Hernandez.
Councilmember Bob Blumenfield.
Councilmember Hutt.
Bob Blumenfield.
Councilmember Hirado.
Blumenfield.
Councilmember Lee.
Councilmember Bob Blumenfield.
Councilmember McOsker.
Blumenfield.
Councilmember Nazarian.
Bob Blumenfield.
Councilmember Padilla.
Mr. Bob Blumenfield.
Councilmember Price.
Bob Blumenfield.
Councilmember Rahman.
Councilmember Robert Blumenfield.
Councilmember Soto Martinez.
The gentleman from the Valley, Bob Blumenfield.
Councilmember Yaroslavsky.
Bob Blumenfield.
With a unanimous vote, Councilmember Bob Blumenfield has been elected to serve as the Council President pro tempore.
Members, now I'll ask our clerk to come back to the podium to help us bring in and formally seat two new members of the City Council, as well as formally swear in public all the members that were elected from even-numbered districts in the City of Los Angeles.
I'm deferring to the photographers, is what I'm deferring to. And what they'd like to do is get the public behind you, and that's what we're trying to do. So.
Did you get the memo? I work with it every day.
Where do you need me? Out of it, or where? Okay. First of all, congratulations to all of you. This is my final time doing this, and so it is my true honor.
So will you please raise your prominent hand and repeat after me? I state your name. Do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of California and the Charter of the City of Los Angeles, and that I will faithfully discharge the duty of council member of your district of the City of Los Angeles according to the best of my ability. Thank you and good luck to you all.
All right, Mr. Clerk, what's next on our agenda?
So, colleagues, I just wanted to give you a little overview of what we're taking up today. I made some of these same comments at the Plum Committee hearing, so apologies for those of you who have to hear them twice. I'm excited because as an urban planner who has read extensively about the history of land use decision-making on our current homelessness and housing crisis here in LA, and as the chair of the committee that deals with the impacts of these rules, I'm very excited to be able to do some work on undoing some of the bad land use planning that we've done here in LA. And the impacts of these rules, these land use rules that have really shaped LA and what it looks like today, are very, very real. We are now spending, in this committee on the issues that we deal with, hundreds of millions of dollars every year, both to stabilize tenants who are facing intense development pressures, tens of thousands of whom are receiving eviction notices here in this city every year, and all of you get frantic calls from tenants in your districts who are dealing with these issues, as well as trying to provide basic shelter and housing for the largest unsheltered homeless population in the entire country. And both of these are a direct result of the lack of housing here in Los Angeles, which come from a really messed up land use policy here in LA. I also want to say that this is a man-made crisis in many, many ways. We have a highly segregated city, and we have a housing shortage that has further segregated this city. And three historical patterns led to the situation that we're facing today. We had racial covenants that actually actively restricted Black, Jewish, Asian, Angelenos, Latinos to particular neighborhoods. We had a federal mortgage policy that was built right on top of that accentuated those patterns and made sure that diverse neighborhoods actually never got invested in by the city or by the federal government. And we had active rezoning that prevented the construction of multifamily housing in many neighborhoods, enacted upon the city by local officials who were very, very eager to kind of keep neighborhoods intact that were coming into place in the past few decades. The state of California has recognized that our housing shortage has deeply impacted our state's vitality. It's also recognized that it's impacted our city's vitality. And they have asked us to add another 456,000 units to meet our housing demand. That's almost 500,000 units. That's how many units we have to build over the next few years in order to meet the existing demand here in LA. And almost 200,000 of them are supposed to be affordable. And I know planning has said that this particular plan that was approved by the CPC and approved by the Plum Committee is enough to meet those goals. And I think on paper it may be, but I just want to say that in reality, I don't think it's going to help us meet those goals. We are basically planning ourselves into a continuation of our existing housing crisis. And you can even look at the numbers that we've built so far. We are halfway through this planning cycle called ARENA cycle, and we've built only 15% of our existing units. So we are far short of that ambitious goal that's been set by this planning process. And research, independent research and city commission research, actually, both research, has found that what we are voting on today will not move us far enough towards building the units that we need and will not move us far enough towards undoing the historical patterns of segregation that have been in this city. So what we're saying, if we approve this plan, and I think, that was what the Plum Committee wanted to do, what we are saying is, yes, let us continue in a housing crisis for another decade. Let us wait. Let's punt this discussion and let's continue to spend these dollars. Let's not address these issues. I also want to say this is a city of majority renters, and so I want to just be explicit about what this policy in front of us is doing. The plan that we have right now concentrates all new development, all new housing construction expansion, which is we're supposed to zone for all these new units. So we're adding capacity. And what we've done in this plan to get us to that goal is to add new housing capacity where existing multifamily construction already exists, which means that if we're wildly successful and a lot of this new housing actually does get built, much of it will be built by knocking down existing housing, displacing existing tenants. Even if these buildings are not our deed-restricted affordable housing units, I also do want to say this is our naturally occurring housing stock. This is our rent-stabilized housing stock. This is the old housing stock in the city that we should be working every day to protect. And instead, what this plan is doing right now is putting a target on their backs. And I have multiple buildings in my district right now that are under redevelopment because of precisely this issue, that the only place where we have extra capacity is where existing multifamily already exists. And I would argue that that approving this version of the plan exactly as it is one of the most anti-tenant things that we as a council can do. And I just want to be very, very clear about that. I want to encourage today the council to look at the options presented by the planning department. As we discussed right now, the department has talked to us about options 2 and 6, which is what my amendment suggests. These are options for gentle density. They do not impact most neighborhoods in this city. They only impact some which are in higher opportunity areas, and they're not putting high rises in those buildings. They're just offering a little more capacity to build units that could be more fiscally possible to be built. So that means mid-scale housing, units that don't require steel frame construction, that don't require significant engineering interventions. This is expanding the universe of the housing that is possible to be built in Los Angeles. Again, what I would argue is our biggest crisis, the most important thing that we need to be doing right now. I also really do want to say that I am a proud representative of LA. I feel very, very privileged to be representing this city. And in a federal climate where people are now being endangered for being gay, for being immigrants, building more housing in LA is welcoming them into the city. We talk a lot about being a welcoming city here. Without more housing, we are an unwelcoming city. That is what it feels like right now. And so I want to do everything in my power to future-proof LA and to make it a place where we are truly living up to our ideals as a city. So that is why I've proposed this. This is Amendment 35C, which is ahead of you, before you today. and I encourage all of you to vote yes on this amendment and move us realistically towards a more inclusive version of this city, one that doesn't disturb existing neighborhoods very much, but that really does open up the possibility for up to 115,000 more units of possible housing. So I hope that I have your support for that. Thank you very much.
Councilmember Hernandez.
Like Councilmember Rahman has said, we are at a historic crossroad, and we have the opportunity to undo generations of harm caused by misguided and racist zoning decisions of the past. Single-family zoning currently constitutes 72% of the city's residential area and often goes by another name, exclusionary zoning. It has historically been used as a tool for exclusion and segregation, only being afforded to higher income residents. On its own website, city planning states, as a result of a significant portion of zoned land in higher resource areas remaining restricted to single-family uses, development of affordable housing remains concentrated in lower resource areas, where multifamily development is permitted by today's existing zoning regulations. This has created clear disparities in housing access throughout the city. Reports generated by the city itself, that's us, and from countless studies show again and again that these disparities come at the very real cost of quality of life, health outcomes, and even life expectancy. The council adopted the 2021-2029 housing element and found that 95% of racially concentrated areas of affluence in the city are zoned for single-family uses, and that these areas have some of the highest performing schools, greatest access to employment, and greatest access to environmental health. Let's compare that to the health, education, and employment outcomes of our residents living in what the state describes as low opportunity areas. Data from EJ Screen, the EPA's environmental justice screening and mapping tool, shows that for Westlake residents, as of the 2020 census, the area continues to be impacted by unaffordable housing costs, overcrowding, poverty, low life expectancy, and lack of access to social safety nets like healthcare and education. And although that's in 2020, it's still the same today. Unless we include those single-family, higher resource areas in this ordinance, we are simply repeating the same historical segregationist patterns of our predecessors. By allowing owners to build just a few more units on large single-family parcels on corridors near transit, including long-term affordable rental and home ownership units, we can take pressure off of existing apartment buildings that are both naturally affordable or coveted as affordable in more vulnerable and less resourced communities. We literally can tell people's life expectancy by their zip code. That's the city that we have built today. And when you look at those zip codes, when you tie it to people's life expectancy, you can see that people in my district, in some of them, in one of the densest neighborhoods in the entire west coast of MacArthur Park, that those life expectancies, the quality of life, everything is below what some of these higher income, more affluent areas look like. UCLA's Lewis Center audited the CHIP program, and I just want to repeat what Councilmember Rahman has said, and found that realistically, we'd only generate about 30% of our regional housing needs assessment, our RHNA goals. And if we're serious about solving our housing crisis, we need to expand CHIP. I call upon the council to adopt Councilmember Rahman's amendment, allow for the modest inclusion of single-family zoned areas, and we can see what some of these projects already look like in Highland Park, where we have multiple housing units on one parcel. And they're cute, they're little homes. It's not these huge towers that are blocking the sun, but it's more density with intention, creating more opportunities for housing. We need to get with the program and do whatever we can to build in some of these high resource areas where they do have regular seed cleaning, where they get their trees trimmed on the regular, and where there's access to good schools. So again, colleagues, I ask you to support Council Rahman's amendment. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Council President. And I just want to say to all my colleagues here, I love the discussion that we're having about this very sensitive, often polarizing issue. But I do want to, and I want to thank everyone for the work that they've done on this. I know it's been many years. Some of it was before many of us were still here. And for everyone who worked on this. Now, regarding the issue of single-family housing and R1, I do want to read a little bit of what I wrote in my letter when this issue was first presented. And I'll quote, "It is no accident that single-family housing is concentrated in high-wealth areas that also tend to be more segregated. This is the result of generations of deliberate government policies that we can no longer afford to ignore. Today, it is our responsibility to address these historical inequities, and that includes rethinking single-family housing areas. I recognize this will be a complex and challenging process for all of us, and my hope is that we approach it thoughtfully, emphatically, and deliberately." And, I agree with many of the comments that were made by Councilmember Rahman and Councilmember Hernandez that we absolutely need to look at single-family areas. And it's work that we should have done many, many, many years ago. But another thing that I deeply believe as an organizer is that you bring people along and that people shouldn't feel that that decision is being from the top down. Decisions should always be made bottom up. And unfortunately, as I've toured my neighborhoods, especially around single-family housing and R1s, I don't believe my constituents have been part of a thoughtful, deliberative process. And as an organizer and elected official, that is not the way I have chosen to govern. I have made many decisions in my district that could be viewed as controversial, and I don't need to list them all, but every single time, one of the things that I continue to always emphasize is how many people have we talked to? How was the outreach? Are we engaging in community meetings? Do people feel like they have been heard? And unfortunately, in this moment, I can say that a lot of the answers to that is that they haven't. And I know that I have many constituents in those areas that want to do many of the things that we're talking about today. It's just about where we do it and how we do it. So, I lament that we're at this point. Oftentimes, the process does not allow for the kind of engagement that I would like to see. It's certainly not here based on my experience with my constituents. So it hurts me to say, but I will be registering a no vote on Amendment 35C. But no matter what happens today here, I think the work needs to continue with the residents that have single-family homes. And I do agree the change is necessary. And I think we have another opportunity to change this through the community plans and other things that happen. And I certainly will be there throwing down to make sure that that happens wherever it overlays in my district. But again, I welcome the discussion, and I hope to see this very same discussion happen at the grassroots level with my constituents so they can feel that they were part of the process as well. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Councilmember Rodriguez.
Thank you. And I want to thank the Planning Department for this extensive work. It's challenging in a place like Los Angeles where we have so many unique areas of topography, as we're watching in Malibu right now with these wildfires that I know are bridging Councilmember Park's area. These are real threats that we're experiencing, and it's been a year-round, it's no longer a high fire season turn of events. But what I think you've done is you've struck the right balance, which has been critically important to giving an indication of where these opportunities exist and where it's just not going to work, so that we don't belabor what will inevitably fail because of the fear of high fire areas and whatnot. And because when we're talking about increases in density, and obviously you've done all of this work to ensure that we are in compliance with HCD and have already gotten the initial nod from them that we're on the right track. Congratulations, because those messages don't often come. So to suggest that additional efforts would only ensure compliance, I think is a false narrative. I think you all have created a pathway for us as a city to do this responsibly in a way that respects and understands the very unique challenges that we have across the city. Because if we were to just enact one-size-fits-all policies, we'd leave it to Sacramento. But this is our job, and this is our responsibility to take into account the nuance of every single one of our neighborhoods and how they would be impacted.
I do just want to say, having followed this process for many, many years, I do want to say significant outreach has been done on this housing element. Both the original version that was submitted to the state, that got us to this place. The planning department has had many, many public hearings, and many of the same commenters who are here today have taken a lot of time. Hundreds and hundreds of public comments have been made through this whole process in order for us to get here, and many of the commenters today expressed support for expanding what's in CHIP. Many of the commenters in the past have expressed support for expanding what's in CHIP. If we have not had that conversation of expanding what's in CHIP, that is because people around this body have not been willing to have that conversation. It has not been the people of Los Angeles who have said no to expanding this. And having witnessed, listened into, attended many of these meetings, I think it is a disservice to the organizing work of many, many groups across the city, including many of our renters' rights advocates who showed up not just to fight for tenant protections, but to say build more and build more across in every neighborhood of the city so that we can afford to live there, which I think is a right that everyone should have here in LA. We should be able to have a city that welcomes people across the entire city. So I want to be very clear about that. Just because it hasn't come to your attention does not mean that that organizing work has not happened. I would ask, who have you spoken to? Have you actually gone out to the communities that this is going to impact and ask them about the impacts of this? Because I think we've heard from many, many voices today that this is going to have negative impacts on existing multifamily. Stuff that makes me very uncomfortable. And I know we need to get to our planning goals, we need to get to our state guidelines, but we're already seeing the impacts of this across our entire city. I also want to just say, if you look, for example, at ED1, which is a planning tool similar to what we're going to be putting into CHIP. It's a parallel tool. You can see the varied impacts of ED1 across the entire city. Districts like Council District 8, Council District 13, Council District 14 have had the majority of ED1 permits, the new entitlements that have come in. There have been council districts here that have less than 1% of the total permits under ED1 because they are planned to exclude any kind of new construction because multifamily housing is not really allowed there. This plan right now that we're passing continues that trajectory. And I'm certainly open to having the conversation. I've been having that conversation for many, many years now, looking forward to having more of it. But I think that I would really push back against the idea that we haven't been having that conversation. It's a true disservice to the hundreds of hours put in by organizers and residents who have shown up to meeting after meeting to make their voices heard, to talk about a more inclusive vision for LA. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Councilmember Hernandez.
Dig a little more into those details, because when is enough? When is enough outreach, But there's been over 3 years of outreach on this work. The housing element has done robust outreach and has analyzed the impact on the entire city. Literally, R1 was a part of that analysis. This has been going on for years. Hundreds of hours of work. When is the right time to make this change? Are we going to keep kicking the curb down when the Super Bowl gets here? When the World Cup gets here? When the Olympics get here? What, in 5, 10, 20 years when we get the next community plans? Because we all know those community plans don't happen overnight because we're still waiting on some of them. So I just want us to be very clear-eyed. And this outreach has been done throughout all of your districts. The expansion is supported by neighborhood councils all across the city and including in your districts. And these organizers have been trying to reach you to ask you to include these incentives in this work that we're moving forward. So again, colleagues, I ask that we support Councilmember Rahman's amendments, that we move forward to take the steps we need to take, make the decisions that we need to make to get out of this housing crisis. Because time is ticking, and we're not getting any closer to addressing this issue by not moving forward with this amendment. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Councilmember Hernandez, and thank you, members of the Plum Committee. I am very grateful to Councilmember Rahman for raising the issue and the history of plainly written and plainly spoken discrimination that took place for a big part of this city's history. And one of the things I appreciate about this council is that it isn't left up to the person that represents the Black community to raise these issues. So I really appreciate her for raising it and the members that have spoken on it, because it's been an issue for a long time. I can still remember seeing my grandparents' picture books, and they would save the clippings about how they couldn't buy property, not just west of Central Avenue, they couldn't buy on the west side of Central Avenue. And that's just my grandparents. Like, I'm sitting here before you. These are my grandparents who were alive. So it's not, we shouldn't pretend like it was some long ago event in some far off kingdom. It was right here in our streets, in our communities, impacting people in very, very real ways that resonate to today. Because now when I go to, my wife and I go to buy a piece of property, we're competing against somebody whose grandparents didn't have that rule. And so they have an inheritance that we don't have. So it's very, very, it's very, very real, and I cannot emphasize enough how important it is to fix it. At the same time, I empathize with the comments of Councilmember Soto Martinez. I think this is a big issue, and it needs to be dealt with in a forthright way. I recognize a lot of work has been done. I do think there can be more done to penetrate and to popularize the issue among our voters. And the last thing I'll say is this, Council. Zoning is very, very important, and it's completely within our purview. But let me just tell you, as somebody who has a district with a lot of corridors that are upzoned, I have very, very few of my main corridors in the 8th District are not upzoned. There's not building happening there. Anybody who read the paper on Sunday, on the front page, there was a story about the Clark family who inherited a lot on Crenshaw Boulevard. It's a front page story. Their problem wasn't zoning, it wasn't infrastructure, frankly, it wasn't anything the city was doing. It was that they couldn't find anybody to give them a loan to build a building. And it took them 3 years to find someone to say, yes, we'll make you a loan to build an apartment building. And they're building a small, it's like 20 units. They're not even building a huge development. And so while there's a lot of concern here about the zoning appropriately, I think that is only one part of why housing gets built and doesn't get built, and where it gets built and where it doesn't get built. And I just want us to always be mindful of that as we're making these kinds of decisions, because just because we say you can do this here, it doesn't matter because if that was the case, my entire district would look very, very different and would have much more affordable housing for the people who have come up in and through South Los Angeles. And so I just offer that to the discussion. I know every time this comes up, people have heard me sing this same song over and over again, but it's if people won't invest, it doesn't matter what our zoning is. The Reef, we spent hours and hours and hours debating the Reef, and that's not even really in South LA proper. That's on Washington, just south of the 10 freeway. Just south of the 10 freeway. The Reef, which we approved almost 8 years ago, there's no construction there. You know why? Not because of our zoning, not because of planning, but because they can't finance the project. And again, we're not in control of that. I get it. But that's the reality of the world that we live in at this time. So I would just offer that to the discussion that we have going forward, because I'm committed to coming back to this matter going forward. Councilmember Lee, to close. All right, what's next?
Mr. President, the council may now vote on item 35 as amended by 35B and 35A.
All right, let's open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
15 ayes.
All right, what's next? Councilmember Hernandez.
Item 35 and 36, move forward with an urgency clause, please.
All right, you have a second for Mr. Lee. All right, seconded by Mr. Lee. Do we need to hold a vote on the urgency clause?
Yes, sir.
All right, let's open the roll on the urgency clause put forward by Councilmember Hernandez, seconded by Councilmember Lee. Close the roll, tabulate the vote.
15 ayes.
All right, what's next?